Hi, everyone. I'm David Griffin here for Think Hero. I'm here with my friend, Michael Medina.
Hello.
Joining us again. This time we're going to talk about video games. We don't get to do a lot of this on Think Hero all the time. So I want to talk about the best video games of 2013 so far.
Yes.
Now, I know for those of you out there, there's a lot of arcade players love the arcade games that come on the PS3 network and the Xbox Live, but we're going to focus primarily on AAA games. Just because I'm not really that knowledgeable about the arcade games. So sorry about that. We're going to stick with the AAA games, the big titles, the big blockbusters. I think the first two they're going to focus on right now are some of the more popular ones I'm sure you've heard of. And then talk about The Last of Us, which I'm sorry for you non-PlayStation owners who haven't had a chance to play it. It's an awesome game. And we'll talk about BioShock Infinite. Yes. That's on both systems. So first, let's talk about, I know Last of Us, I think, was really special to you. So let's talk about Last of Us first. We're not going to go into any big spoilers here, so you don't have to worry about that.
I loved The Last of Us. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, that's my favorite game so far of the year. I mean, that game from start to finish was just amazing. There were so many what the what moments in that game. It was so much fun. Like the story just kept me invested all the way throughout. And just even the multiplayer, which, really didn't have a chance to check out that much, but from what I've heard and stuff is also really good. It just seemed like a really fully fleshed out game, and I loved. And, compared to a lot of other games that kind of try to follow suit and stuff, the game mechanics might be okay or whatnot, but the story never really keeps me invested. I really want to care for these characters, and I felt that I really did. In so many occasions, I felt like I was watching a movie and playing this game. And I'm a huge fan of Uncharted and things like that, and that's basically what I felt while playing this game, which makes sense because it is Naughty Dog. Right. It just goes to show you just how amazing these guys are.
Right. I mean, I think that's a game that, for me, I always phrase it as it's Walking Dead at its best.
Sure.
When Walking Dead is at its best, when it's having these tough moral choices about what it is to be human, what it is to make moral decisions, is it good to kill somebody if you have to? Is it okay? Sometimes there's circumstances. It asks all those questions, and the two leads are incredible. It's
the voice acting too. Is just so
which
amazing.
Is funny. We're going to talk about BioShock Infinite in a little bit, and Troy Baker does the voice of Joel in The Last of Us, but he also does the voice of Booker DeWitt in BioShock Infinite. So he's going to be part of the Game of the Year conversation no matter what, which is awesome. But besides that, I mean, it's just such a great game, so immersive. It is. I think it's the best parts of Walking Dead.
Absolutely. And I just felt like there were so many cool, innovative features in the game. So many things. I really couldn't think of another game that this game is like. I just think it really does a good job of borrowing a lot of elements from different games.
True, yeah.
There's a lot of sneaking around, but then there's a little bit of gunfire, it's not an open world game, but it's such a big game that it kind of feels
it's not super linear. You're not being squeezed.
Yeah.
You have to go to this one path. It's you can look around, and if you do look around, your reward. I mean, they're not going to spoil anything, but if you do play the game, please take the time to look around. I mean, there's stuff written on the walls. There's a whole story
so
arc.
much attention to detail
You can
in
find
that
with just reading some letters. Read the notes if you can. They're not super long, and they're really interesting. You might find a story about a whole family. Throughout the game. And I mean, it's so many good Easter eggs in there. I mean, and the fighting, the mechanics are good. It's got survival horror, like you said. It's
it really
got all
does.
these different kind of elements that mixes in. It's good. It's fun.
And again, the story is just amazing. Just that the intro to the game is just phenomenal.
Right. And so that was, again, like I said, I know that kind of limits some of the gaming world to just Sony, but if you have a friend, if you can't buy one, if you have a friend that has a PlayStation, go over, rent it, or if they own it, go play it with them, because definitely worth checking out. Next for a Game of the Year conversation. Remember, this is Game of the Year so far. We do have some games coming out soon. But let's talk about BioShock Infinite. Mike and I differed a little bit on this, opinion-wise. I think I liked it a little bit more. But another game that took risks. It took, whether you like it or not, it took a lot of chances. It's this kind of beautiful world of Colombia that's in the clouds, that's extremely American, racist, all these really interesting issues, like theological issues, racial issues, all these really interesting topics, disguised as a shooter, but I think trying to deal with some more heavy subjects, everybody talks about the ending. We can't spoil the ending, but if you can play the game, whether you like it or not, try to get to the ending at least, to get through it. I really liked the game. I thought it was a great experience. That's one of if either game, Last of Us or BioShock 1, I'd be happy with it. But I know we have a little different opinion on this.
Well, see, going back to what you just said, my problem is just I don't want to have to play a game that I have to just get through it just to really benefit from the ending and stuff, which, by the way, the ending was great and it is worth sticking around. But see, that was my problem. I felt that the gameplay itself was good. It wasn't bad, but didn't really offer me at least anything new. And I felt that the story, and I don't know, I guess this is just their thing, because even going back to playing BioShock, they're very slow with the way they tell the story or whatnot. And I felt that's kind of what happened here. I felt there were times times when I was just kind of like, why am I doing what I'm doing right now? Like I just didn't feel, again, talking about like The Last of Us, I didn't feel invested in these characters or in this story. The ending is worth it. I think I would have appreciated it more had I really played the previous 2 games. But if you did, it's definitely worth it. But again, that's just how I felt. It's just a little too slow for me. Looking at a game like Halo 4, it doesn't, try to reinvent the wheel, but the story's just so good, it keeps you wanting to play.
Right. So, I mean, those are our first. I think Mike and I both, Mike, especially for The Last of Us, we agree as our top pick. For me, BioShock would also be a top pick. Talk about a couple other AAA games. Tomb Raider came out. Very interesting. Tomb Raider is a series I've always tried. Never really gotten into it. Like, I felt like it was, even though it came out before, I felt it was kind of like a poor man's Uncharted. Granted, Tomb Raider is an older franchise, but I felt like it was trying to be like Uncharted, or I guess Uncharted was trying to be like Tomb Raider, but did a better job of it. Sure. And then Tomb Raider came out, this new one, and it was really good. I was surprised. I wasn't sure what to expect. It had elements from Uncharted, but it still held its own.
Yeah,
it's a little more open world than Uncharted.
Absolutely.
It's a little different.
No, I kind of felt the same way about Tomb Raider. Like, I remember I had a friend that was really like into Tomb Raider back in like the late 90s and loved it and stuff. And I tried because I love action adventure, but for whatever reason, I just couldn't really get into this series. Right. And so that's why I was a little skeptical. I'm like, all right, well, it looks good. I'll give it a try. I'm glad I did because the multiplayer, was whatever, but the single player story is phenomenal. Yeah. I wouldn't say it's not quite on, at least for me, Uncharted, level yet, but I feel that it's still really good. Graphically, I thought it looked great. The story was, fun, and the gameplay I thought was, kept me wanting to play.
Yeah, for the first time, Lara.
Lara.
She's British. It's a Lara. Can't just be Laura, and that's Lara. She felt like a more human character to me. Before she's just, girl with some big boobs and short shorts. I just never could take her seriously. But now she was still attractive. She's still pretty. But I sympathize with her. I want to know more about her character. She goes through a lot of tough stuff on this island. I hope the next game is maybe a little more globe-trotting. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. A little more globe-trotting and less like stuck on like an island. Kind of like Uncharted 1 was more on one location. The next 2 were more globe-trotting. So I'm excited to see the sequel for Tomb Raider.
That makes sense for a first game too, kind of kicking off. It's not a new franchise, but it's definitely a reboot. So it makes sense that you kind of want to start small and then just kind of go big in the second game. But there's a lot of potential and room for growth.
Right. And so our one of the other major games to talk about, probably the last game, is Dead Space 3. Dead Space is one of Mike and I's. I know we both enjoy playing. We actually played a lot of online, just co-op for this new Dead Space game. This game has kind of had a tough history. I heard there's stuff that Game 3 almost didn't get made. Game 4, it's heard it's not even in development anymore. It's just, now I think they're going to start developing Star Wars games, so who knows. But I loved it. It was a sci-fi horror story about a guy named Isaac Clarke who's just had the worst luck in the world. I mean, even the third game, he's getting annoyed. He's just like, ugh. Like, can you guys just, he's the engineer. It's a typical game where you get pulled around the map. It's like, well, hey, go to blah, 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 and fix this thing. It's like, okay. And then so I thought it was a fun game. It was always visually gorgeous. Great, awesome action sequences. If you saw Star Trek Into Darkness this summer, that whole scene where they're shooting through space in their space shoots. They do that in Dead Space a lot. And when I saw that scene, I'm like, that's Dead Space. But what do you think about the franchise as a whole in Dead Space 3?
I love the franchise in general. Like, I'd probably say the first one, as far as like the story goes, is probably my favorite. I felt like it was the scariest of the 3. I felt like with 2 and especially 3, they try to focus a little bit more on the action instead of the horror.
You almost get too powerful.
A little bit.
Right, yeah.
A little bit, yeah, for sure. But I thought graphics were beautiful. Yeah. The story was fun. Going back to what you said also about like, playing co-op and stuff, and we played the DLC that came out, which was good, but I felt like I still felt like the game kind of lacked a little something. I enjoyed it. I loved it, but I felt like there was something more that the game should have provided me with, especially like you said, seeing as how we may not get a 4th game.
I know.
Again, not to spoil anything, but the ending.
Oh, the DLC for the DLC.
Yeah, the DLC.
Yeah,
There's a cliffhanger. It doesn't really wrap it up. It doesn't leave it too open-ended, but still, there's like, it's good, and I want to see more.
That's frustrating. I hope we get another one. I don't think we will, but it was a fun franchise. If you can pick up the games, probably get them cheap right now. They're definitely worth playing. They're both out for both systems too.
Especially the first. Again, like the first one reminds me so much of like Alien.
Right.
A little bit of Aliens as well. They're so much fun.
So, of course, other games that came out this year. Again, I'm sorry for not going into more of the arcade games, more of the indie games. Well, indie games are huge, like PS4 and their press conference, really getting in on the indie games. I mean, I just don't play enough indie games, so I can't go into detail about that. But, there's Injustice Gods Among Us. It's a fighting game strong enough to win Game of the Year. Of course, let us know in the comments what you think. We're also, looking forward to the future. Mike and I are talking about Grand Theft Auto 5. We got Watch Dogs coming out for both systems, the new and the old. That game Beyond Two Souls with Willem Dafoe and good cast there from the makers of Heavy Rain. Really immersive experience. Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag. Yeah, talk about Assassin's Creed. They're kind of coming to new Call of Duty. They're like they're not the Call of Duty style game, but they're almost like the new Call of. They want a game out every year now.
Absolutely.
So they're really pumping games out. So there's still games to come out. I mean, Grand Theft Auto's got to be the big one coming out in a few weeks. We're all excited to play that.
That's definitely the one game I'm really looking forward to.
All right.
Yeah.
So I mean, let us know what you think. What's your game of the year so far? Let me know about the arcade games. David, Michael, check out an arcade game. This is the arcade game you got to play, because I'm down to buy an arcade game on Xbox or PlayStation Store or whatever. So, as always, you can come chat with us on our YouTube page. It's Think Hero Pro. You can also come chat with us on our website at thinkhero.com. If you want to chat with us on Twitter, myself, Dennis, Mike, you can find us at Think Hero. Personally, I'm at Griffin DE.
I'm at Mr. Michael Alexis.
And we also have a Facebook page. That's facebook.com/ThinkHeroFans.